Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frayne. I'm the host for the show. And today we have a group on our panel, and we're going to talk about Disabilities for Dummies. It's part 4. Tune into your favorite, Spotify app or wherever you want to find this show that, is great for you, right? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. yeah, you like that one, eh?
It works. All right.
My voice right over.
That's cool.
That was my twin, right? It's
your doppelganger, yeah.
My doppelganger here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
We have Dan that just joined as well.
Yeah.
So as a part 4, I just wanted to quickly run through all of the statements we've covered so far. So quickly, we had 15 statements that were, like we said, Captain Obvious statements, simple truths of disability. So the first statement that we covered in the first and second episode, we should say, is moral compass check. Any claim that vulnerable and disabled are well taken care of is false. That was the first one. Second one, having a disability is hard. Third statement, disability is an added personal expense. Fourth, a disabled life is worth living. Fifth, provincial PWD Shelter Allowance of $375 or $500 per month is discriminatory. Then we had in the part 3 last week, we had 6, disability income support is an obligation, not charity. 7, political solutions to disability need to be more nuanced. 8, accessibility isn't always accessible. 9, locking your dog inside a hot car is a crime. Putting PWDs in unsafe or unhealthy situations is very bad also. And the last one we did last week was 10, persons with disabilities have sex, get over it. So if any of those sound interesting to anyone, go back and watch it. It's been a really good series. This is the last of the series, so that we're going to cover 11 to 15. It's the last 5 points. And, maybe as a wrap up, we can talk about if anybody has any ideas of, one that they could have added. Maybe we can talk about that at the end. But so we're going to go to the 11th statement now, and that's paper straws suck because they don't suck. So 11 is paper straws suck because they don't suck. Go.
All right. Well, paper straws. I don't like paper straws. I find it's like I feel like I'm choking when I'm taking a drink from that paper straw. I think there should always be an option for people with disabilities to have either the plastic straw or the paper straw. It should be readily available from every retailer that's there to choose. I know environmentally, we need to reduce down, pollution, right? But there should always be that option. When that option's not there, you try to suck on that straw. You're eating the paper almost. It feels like you're eating that the paper is actually going down, and it changes the. I don't know. For me, I find it's changing the whole flavor of the drink too. Like it feels like there's like a chemical or something.
Well, you say it feels like there's a chemical. There is a chemical actually Brent. I was
Oh,
just
that's what it
I
is,
was
isn't it?
just reading an article just
Ooh.
recently, and they've proven that the there's chemicals in those paper straws that are bleaching into the food or into the drinks,
Oh,
like poisons, like microscopic poisons that are when the straw breaks down, it's leaching and bleaching into the drink. So we're basically ingesting a little bit of poison when those straws break down.
yeah. Well, because like
So we
when I was on
traded
the
it for one poison for the other because we're worried about the planet, the
Yeah,
plastic. And then
yeah,
like let's make paper because the paper has to be thicker. And
yeah,
then you go through more of them because they don't do the straw sucking
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
yes,
So they should just have sippy cups
yeah,
because the sippy cup was
yeah,
it was pretty a solid invention of the sippy cup. Like it
yeah.
whether it didn't have a straw, but you could tilt it and you still got something out. Like they're better off to offer people a sippy cup because the straw is not working.
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
I mean, this question came about because of Lorelei. We tried to get her on last year, and I still want to try to get her on this year.
mhm,
But she had last time she was on, she had a big segment about straws.
mhm.
And, before she came on, like you and I had never really thought about it too much,
Right.
but it is a accessibility device for a lot of people.
Yeah, it
And
is. It is, Neil. I like when I was on the BC ferries, when I went over, and there was a drink there, and you can get the straw. I would just get the plastic. I mean, go figure. There's a plastic container that's not breakable. It doesn't break down into for but in recyclable.
Mhm.
Maybe they do recycle, but sure. I mean, plastic versus paper straw. I just don't even take the paper straw. Just take the lid off, right? But at the same time, it's a safety issue too, because if for some reason that cup it sits on a table, and sure they got platform around the table so that if there's any bumps as the ferry's going along, it doesn't spill. But what if it did spill, right? That's why you got a lid on it. You're supposed to have a straw to go in there, but you just have to be careful, I suppose. But wow, I mean,
Like
having that.
we know the electric toothbrush is a made from a disability assisted device. Like and the way that dentists push you getting an electric toothbrush,
Mhm.
and I finally found one for $40, or I get the child size electric toothbrushes because they're cheaper.
Mhm.
Yes, I notice a difference when I go get my cleanings done. They're faster, there's less pain, all that. But the dentist literally drill you. Do you have electric toothbrush? Do you have electric toothbrush? Like they're anywhere from like $50 to $200 or $300 for the electric toothbrush.
Mhm.
And the water pick, the thing that sprays water in between your teeth.
Mhm.
And the straw, they eliminate the straw when you kind of need that first and then you brush your teeth.
Yeah,
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 Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
We have Ellen trying to join here too, so
Yeah.
we'll see if he can get
Well,
on.
I'll go over to MJ.
I I don't know. I don't like these whole paper straw things. I mean, see, the problem that I have here is just my opinion that we've gotten overwrought with the ideas of the environment, and we're not going and talking about, you know, what we can do with this plastic we already have, and we should be trying to do something with it instead of just throwing it in a landfill or horribly recycling it. And a lot of it is ending up in the landfill because there's no market for it, right?
Mm.
I mean, we've already had the Middle East go, or not Middle East, Asia go and ban our garbage. We had it sent back to us,
Hmm.
so right. So we have to take a look at this from a realistic point of view and look at this and say, okay, we have this garbage. We have to find a solution, no matter what it is. I mean, I always suggest paralysis because you actually can go and take plastic, make gasoline from it. And then from there, it's actually burns cleaner than gasoline from oil because it's already been refined once. So I mean, I'm looking at, harm reduction, or we can use it to make benches, boards, whatever. We're already doing these things. But how many benches can you put in before you run out of space to put benches, right? So we're so they're talking about mixing plastics into the road, so it'll last longer. I mean, they're looking at all ideas of trying to figure out this. But here's the thing: is when you put more plastic into the road, it still is going to eventually degrade and fall apart, and you end up in the environment. So, you're fighting a situation where you have to look at this from a point of view of there has to be a best solution mitigation process to the garbage that we have. I mean, we have tons of garbage and plastic, so we could literally just dig up and sit there and clean and refine this stuff into whatever. There's so much garbage, So to me, these paper straws, it's just trading one stupid thing for another stupid thing that's even dumber. So now we're going back to cutting down trees that go and take CO2 out of the air to make oxygen, right? Along with the other plant life, right? And here's the thing is we're cutting down a tree to go and make these straws. Let's think about this. Sure, some might be made out of recycled paper, but that has to go through a purification process. That means it has to be bleached. It has to be purified. You have to get the toxins out from the previously used paper.
And we ingest the bleach.
Exactly. So the process of all of this is, and people forget that it takes 50 years for a single tree to go and be a viable carbon sink to remove enough CO2 out of the air to be useful. It takes 50 years. Okay. So a lot of people don't understand that when it comes to all of this, it's like, I would have no problem if they said, okay, we're going to go make straws out of hemp, and we're going to go and plant 1 million acres of hemp for plastic straws. I could, I mean, that would be a renewable resource, which would be a lot more viable to me, than
even bamboo. Bamboo grows every 5 to 7
Bamboo
years
is a great
or
idea.
something.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bamboo, even. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, something alternative that is not going to cutting down a tree to go and, it's like where I live, we have a freaking power plant that uses bio whatever, and it's basically they take trees and soda and turn them into sawdust to go and burn to make power. And I just shake my head at the illogical thought process that we have when it comes to plastics and waste and other waste. It goes into a larger discussion of the environmental movement is not thinking with common sense.
Yeah.
And I will say, for the record, that's my opinion.
Yeah. I'm all for the environment, but it's like, it seems like an over adjustment or over compensation. It's like, look what we did, and it's like, and whenever the government or whoever is behind that movement does stuff like that, it's typically, vulnerable populations like the disabled that bear the brunt of it, right? It's like, oh, look what we're doing. We're saving the environment, and it's like, who cares about that straws are a disability device, and people can, I mean, maybe there's going to be people type in the comment like, well, you can always use the metal straws. I mean, well, yeah, you could, but
people were impaled. People got this, the lady that had, or the jogger that had the metal straw, it went through their body. They fell down and it went through their body. It's not like it caused another problem.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember a plastic straw causing damage that way, but metal straws definitely do.
Yeah.
There should always be that option of having that plastic straw, right? I mean, it's industry. Somebody's telling industry to basically do this. It's just because it's like another company to basically make a profit off of. Hey, let's make paper straws. Who wants to be the vendor today? So let's make these ones. So it's paying somebody off to basically give them another job to basically make these paper straws. It's not working. It's a choking hazard, and also the chemicals that are going into your body too, right? It's just it's nasty.
Well, and this is where, to me, it's like, if you're making something from recycled product, you have to understand the process. And with the amount of, chemicals that are being used to, basically they shred it all the way back to, fibers. And then, it gets cleaned, it gets washed, it gets bleached, it gets leached, and then it gets washed again, and so on, to the point where it's like there's been so much chemicals put through this, it becomes in itself a health hazard.
Yeah, yeah. But here's a paper straw for you. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Dan, what's your
Dan has a question or thing. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Paper straws absolutely suck. So on a personal level, I hate them, but I agree with every single thing that MJ and Minnie just said. I mean, if you're going to eliminate one, it kind of defeats the purpose when it causes another problem, right? From what I've heard within this community, as well as other disability communities that I talk with, it is a choking hazard for some. Myself on a personal level is a weird quirk that I've never told anybody, but whatever, no big deal. I actually carry a couple plastic straws with me every day. It's just a personal preference, right? I recycle. I don't drive. I've never flown. So I love the environment and I'd love to do anything that'll help it. But yeah, something like this, it's just something that's not really on my radar in the sense of worrying about it. I listen to what goes on in the community and I adapt to the situation.
Yeah. Thanks on that viewpoint. Because I mean it's definitely straws are definitely a huge issue for the environment and also for people. What was that?
Cutlery is bad.
Wooden cutlery. Oh, that's a good point, Sonia. Wooden cutlery. Now you got plastic. Then there's ones that are apparently made out of paper.
Well, those are bleached too, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. More bleach.
The lids are still plastic. The lids are still plastic.
The wood ones, when you clean them, you have to make sure they don't swell because the wood absorbs the water. But over time, they literally hold the bacteria in it. So like when people use the salad giant forks and stuff, or like the ones for cooking, the wooden spoon to make sure you sketch off the bottom while you're cooking.
Yeah.
It's not better. They're temporary good utensils to use in that moment. And then every time I get something from Swiss Chalet, so Swiss Chalet got rid of the containers for the food, but they still have plastic utensils. Those just keep around because I need them to not scratch the non-stick surfaces of things.
Yes.
Because you still need plastic for non-stick food. And then eventually they found out the non-stick coating is toxic. But some of the non-stick things cook food better.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's a tough one, right? Because you don't want to start scratching that non-stick surface because then now you're just exposing out all the toxins, eh?
Yeah.
Anyway,
we could probably go on to the next one. Let's try to go through these quickly. We have 12, and this is in honor of Jeff Leggett. If anybody remembers when Jeff was on just before Christmas, he came on and he did a Christmas message, and he talked about this. So this is in honor of Jeff.
Okay.
So 12 is metaphorically speaking. So I have the metaphorically speaking right in there. Pulling a bad tooth is not the same as fixing it. Metaphorically speaking, pulling a bad tooth is not the same as fixing it. Go.
Well, pulling a tooth, I mean, if you can salvage a tooth, why not, right? I mean, but if it's going to cost a lot more because your dental plan, disabled dental plan, as everyone knows, I mean, people are on either ODSP or any provincial disability assistance. Of course, they used to be pensions at one time, but that's another topic. The plans, they don't cover a lot of these extractions. Like if you start getting a lot of them, it starts adding up. Now you're going to use up your whole plan. So dentists actually say, hey, let's salvage a tooth because, hey, that tooth is very important there, Brent. That one, you don't want to lose that one. So metaphorically speaking is that you want to salvage a tooth, but unfortunately, if you're not going through pain and suffering though, then they don't want to remove it. But it really comes down to the patient, because if they're going through a lot of pain, the dentist will actually, at the end of the day, say it is ultimately the patient's decision to remove a tooth. They'll try to convince you not to. because dentists, I mean, they're in to make money. I mean, if you lose all your teeth, they got no business now.
No, it's not that they don't have business. They literally just switch you over to get veneers. So
Yeah.
like my friend, for whatever reason, her teeth are always being pulled. Mine, luckily, they're all here, except for 8 of them, because wisdom teeth, and I had 4 out extracted for braces because my jawline is too small.
Mhm.
So it is based on the patient, because it could be genetics, it could be a smoker, they could be like alcohol person, they could be bulimic. There's so many other things that
Oh, yeah.
just destroy a person's mouth.
Yeah.
So when you're in the dentist's office and your insurance is ODSP, like I had a thing growing in my mouth, but the dentist is not qualified to remove it. So I got sent to the oral surgeon, and it was just this weird, annoying thing. And we're hoping it doesn't grow back. But if it grows back, I literally have to decide, max out my credit card to have the oral surgeon remove it, or just live with it because the dentist is not qualified to take it out.
Mhm.
All while trying to keep because my dad put me in braces when I was in high school for 4 years. So growing up with that insurance, we made sure to max out the insurance to cover all my dental stuff. And now it's just me maintaining it.
Mhm.
But for other people who their mouth is literally just falling apart,
Mhm.
eventually you cannot eat food. And it's back to straws. It goes back. If you have no more teeth in your mouth, it's back to straws again. It's back
Yeah.
to smoothies, it's back to injections, it's back to liquid food, because you no longer have teeth in your mouth. And then the dentist has to send a request to ODSP and hope it gets approved. Like I need a night guard, so I'm not clenching on my teeth anymore, but I cannot get it covered by ODSP because it's not from a head injury. So like there's a certain criteria that they cover specific things, or you're escalating it so that a different part of the government's covering it. When really they should just pay for an extra bigger plan in whatever private insurance plan that they're contracted with,
Mhm.
which is like how BC or whatever has the Blue Cross connection. They just need to pay more money in Blue Cross. I'd be happy to pay an extra $50 in Blue Cross if you got me more services or more access to taking care of my overall health. So I'm not in the emergency room trying to do some emergency patch up thing because the preventative care wasn't done.
Because in many, like in British Columbia, like for PWD, the government goes through Pacific Blue Cross because they're in the insurance company. They administer the payments, right? So I mean, it's $1,000 coverage over 2 years, right? So if you need any major dental work, they say the dentist will try to do what they can do based on your coverage. So if you meet the odd year, you have to skip another year in order to get your coverage to now roll over into like the second, or actually I guess it'd be the third year, because you're only covered under 2 years, really. Like, so yeah, it's a real mess. If you need
sorry, I was going to say, like, going back to Jeff, when Jeff shared the story about, because he was saying that he went to the dentist and he wanted to get a crown done, right? And remember, the ministry came back and said, "Oh, that's too expensive. We'll only pay for the tooth to get pulled."
Yes.
So that's what they said. The ministry came back and said, "We'll only pay for the tooth to get pulled because it's cheaper." And Jeff said, "Well, I want to keep my tooth. So how about if I just pay the difference? Like you can fund the tooth, pretend I'm going to get it pulled and fund that percentage of it, and I'll just top up to have
difference to get the
have my tooth kept." And they said, "Well, no, we can't do that." Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the codings, the medical code. So if they put in medical code extraction, and how government always asks for receipts, and extra notes and documentation because they're watching taxpayers' money. The dental clinic doesn't want to get in trouble for putting in the code something different, because they do it with I have a wire in my mouth, and every time the cement chips off. So we're trying to find another thing in the code to cover the patching of the retainer that literally holds my teeth in place so it doesn't relapse. We're basically preventing me from going back into braces by making sure that the wire in my mouth is still there. And she's like, "Oh, let me figure out what code to put it in." And I'm like, "Okay, like as long as I get what that I came in for." So it's it's a combination of the codes that they have, the billing the codes, and then checking receipts. They're constantly checking receipts. They're all constantly doing audits. It's not like they're auditing us individually. They're auditing us. They're auditing the services we get access to. So if you wanted the medical supplies, the incontinence supplies, and they only tell you to go to those suppliers that have it, the supplier could be nowhere in your city, but because they're giving you the adult diaper, you have to go there. And then they make it a big deal of you cannot go anywhere else. You cannot choose. Like you could have one on sale in your walking distance from where you are, but they don't want to get you access to it. So
Yeah.
it's a combination of everybody's in agreement of following, watching for taxpayers' money, and you don't get the best choice because the government just saying we chose it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MG had a
Yeah,
comment?
quick before we go to MJ, like I had a medical procedure that I needed to get done. The dentist had recommended, wrote a letter to the government at the time, and it was actually the current government, well, I mean, the government that was in power, and then they had the opposition. And then I was told to give a copy to opposition plus the current government and say, now, who's going to make sure, who's going to root to get this done? And they said, you know, you need to salvage these very important teeth. I can pull them, but he said that the government says pull it, you know, because it's the cheapest option. He says, I want to salvage it, Brett. I mean, it's very important, Ray, because it actually changes the whole dynamic of the structure of teeth. The teeth start shifting, they'll start moving, right? And we don't want that to happen because then it creates a whole big giant health issue down the road, right? So, you know, I mean, kind of
I'm
going
experiencing that.
yeah, that's exactly kind of what Minnie was saying. It's yeah, like it's the government has codes, and I remember going through that procedure where I said, okay, so yeah, there's just same thing as what you mentioned, what Jeff had gone through, and the dentist says, well, technically I can't do that. I mean, I could, but I'm not allowed to do that because the government will want to have copies. If they actually request to see a copy of X-rays to determine that what's going on here, and all of a sudden, oh, hey, how did that tooth grow back? He was funny dentist. Why did it grow back? Oh yeah, hey, the tooth grew back. Hey, we just pretended we took it out, but we didn't, right? He says then to behold lawsuits and but anyway, end of the story. Long story short, before we go to MJ is the government turned it down. They said no, it'd be too expensive. So you just yank out what needs to be yanked out. So you had to go and do it. So yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, MG.
Well, you know, and this is where, you know, having proper dental care is one of the big things that, you know, a lot of people really take for granted, you know, and they make this even more difficult for us. It's like if you have, if you have regular health insurance, you know, then you can just go and say, yeah, just bill my insurance. It doesn't matter what it is. The insurance will cover it. Right. Mm-hmm. And this is where the problem of this government getting in the way. It's like, what if you just paid the deductible and just cover the deductible, whatever it was, and be did with it and say, this is the amount of deductible that we're going to cover for your insurance policy, right? Mm-hmm. You know, over the course of the next X amount of years, mm-hmm. right? And then maybe there'd be a lot less problems. But, you know, one of the biggest problems is because they make it so difficult to deal with all of this stuff is people just say, you know what, I don't want to deal with it. They let their dental health go down the drain, and they end up with things like oral cancer, other, serious problems from teeth going bad and all the rest of this stuff. So, I mean, the major health concerns from all of this is, to me, is like if they just stop goofing around here.
Penny
pinching, right? That if they just did this right the first time, then down the road, there wouldn't be more excessive costs at a later date. Because if they, this is where the problem is when they do these things, they're not forward thinking to go and say, hey, if we do it the first time, then guaranteed we won't have to worry about it later on, or it won't be a bigger issue later on, right? Mm-hmm. So solving the problem should be the paramount solution, but our governing system and our government don't want to solve the problems. They just want to go and kick the can down the road you
Mhm.
know, which goes, it's like, it's our health. Okay. It doesn't, that's the problem, is they don't care, right, about our health.
Mhm.
They just care about pinching pennies. So to me,
Mhm.
if they actually cared about our health and realized, hey, if we did this right, we wouldn't have to be paying for more down the road at a later date. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Dan's got his hand up, so you can go ahead, Dan.
I'll just be very quick so you can move on to the next one. MJ just hit the nail on the head, right? It's whether it's tooth solutions or extractions or what have you, or government. It's like these band-aid solutions just aren't working. Minnie just said it earlier too. I didn't even know about this, but codes. It's like, how about the code of being human? Fix my fucking teeth, right? Like, what are people talking about, right? So it goes right to what MJ and what Minnie said. It's like, just screw the band-aid solutions, but like, just be a human for once and just say, hey, listen, this needs to be fixed, because it's just like housing, it's just like disability issues or transit or anything else. You keep kicking that can down the road, and 10 years from now, it's going to cost you 20 times more than if you just fix the problem in the first place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I,
Thanks.
I've
Very
experienced
well
this,
said.
but I don't want to drag on because it's a long story. So, I've just been told that, in my position, yanking to put dentures in to fill my mouth in would mean tearing everything out of my mouth on the front, top, and bottom just to put a denture in. When if they actually sprung for four, and it's two, probably like 4 or 5 implants with a bridge, and I'd be good to go. But no, that's like, oh, that's fashion cosmetic dentistry, and it's like 16 grand, and we're not going to cover it. And I'm like, you're going to give me partial dentures that I can't eat with, but go yank my mouth out to put some plastic in, like, that I can't eat with.
Yeah.
So, my only option is implants, and they're so damn expensive now. I'm hoping that when the dental plan comes in play in June, when you're covered as a disabled person, that might change the landscape a little bit. But I've had dentists tell me, wait till the NDP get there, and you're qualified for that, and then go after it then. So
What
I'm
what I,
hoping this summer.
yeah, what I'm wondering on that one, Alan, is who is that going to go to though? That dental plan, is it going to go to the DTC recipients, or is it going to go to all PWD and provincial assistants
Yeah.
across?
That's the $1 million
I think
question,
you
right?
just apply. I think you applied to it. Like, I think you applied to it like you did the CERB. Like, you just go on,
Oh.
and it tells you whether you're qualified, because it's all through the CRA. At least the kids one was. Apply for the Canadian dental plan if you have a kid under the age of, click here. I
Well,
don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I have a disability tax credit. Um, I also am registered by the CRA as a disabled person.
mhm, mhm.
My mom has that documentation, and I have the RDSP,
What
which I've
I
actually got to flip now.
yeah, one of my concerns too, Alan, just to before we move on to the
Yeah,
next topic is, if the government, the provincial may claw that back, because if that's a federal program, they may claw it back. So if they go to fix, a dentist goes to fix a tooth, a bunch of teeth, and say, oh, wait a minute, hey, you don't qualify for this, so we need to now take those teeth back out.
You can't handle
I-
the tooth.
You can't have all that tooth. We're taking it out.
You can't handle the
I
tooth.
think if people on ODSP were clawed back or toothed back,
Or tooth.
not to use a pun, uh, if
I had to
they
throw
were
that in. I
toothed
did.
out, if they were toothed out by the province, I think you would see such an uproar,
Oh yeah.
upcry, that they would have to backtrack it. I think Doug would get more trouble and we're losing popularity for going after people with disabilities, because there are wealthy people out there that have loved ones that are on a disability, are on ODSP, and I think the backlash on that and the fact that he's already in hot water with the CMP being under investigation and the way that he conducts himself, I think Doug Ford would, to use an expression, bite off more than he could chew in the popularity scheme.
That's a good one.
And I think it would backfire on him if he played the Ebenezer Scrooge card, 2 for 2, as you might say.
What's everyone's view on that one? The clawback. I mean, I was just pulling a funny one, but I mean, that's. I mean, I could see something going sideways with that. I mean, if it's not in conjunction with provincial, that they all have to agree based on insurance that that dental plan needs to go to all, and there's no clawbacks. I mean, we made a mistake. Yeah, you weren't supposed to get that. Now we need to take them out. I don't see that happening, but I was.
So the news right now is having an issue with insurance companies not trying to cover specialty drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And then another article popped out where they used to limit which pharmacist you can go and refill that prescription. And now they're saying that it could be for anybody. So Manulife was trying to be like, oh, we only want to do it for the big corporation pharmacists. And it eliminates all the smaller pharmacists, the independent pharmacists, like the ones that are a tiny little corner in between your neighborhood. Those, and and then the dental part, the news also had it where the senior who had his private insurance, who wanted to apply for the government insurance, and part of the criteria of the government insurance for seniors was if you had access to or had the ability to pay for private insurance, you don't qualify. So even though we want the government to take care of everything, they make up the rules. We may still have to pay for things out of our own money because we don't qualify because we're on ODSP or we have ODAB or we have some other program, or you had an employer for 6 months and you're supposed to go back to your employer. Or you have access to a credit card. They may say that because you have access to a credit card, you have to pay for all your medical expenses. It's not just a tooth, it's everything medical that they're trying to pawn off to you on your own, or not have it covered, or tell you it's limited because you have access to something, or you have this much money in your bank account. We really don't know. Like this whole idea that the government will take care of us. No, the government's finding ways to cut everything from providing for us. The government doesn't want to take care of us. The only reason they're doing that is to get people to vote for them so they have more votes. And then as soon as it is, oh, you guys are too expensive, you're a burden, they cut you off. Between pharmacists, dental, psychiatrists, every medical thing they can find a way to not cover, they're not covering it. The way that Manulife's saying, oh, we can only work with the Shoppers Drug Marts and the Rexall, but not the mom and pop Indian pharmacist down the corner. And they went to school to help people fill the prescriptions. Like me now trying to get my vitamin D covered for the exceptional access program because the government won't cover it. It's $16 for the higher prescription because it's not over the counter.
Oh, wow.
They're constantly choosing a game of survivor of what's covered and what's not all the time.
Yeah. And I just want to before we move on, I just wanted to clarify again or emphasize that at the beginning of that question, it was metaphorically speaking. So we're not just talking about dentistry here. Actually, we're talking about, there's a lot of metaphorical teeth, right? So we're talking about basically the whole gamut of healthcare, really, where the government is saving a buck at the expense of, like we've said, kicking the can down and making a bigger bill down the road, right? At the expense of people's health.
It causes a whole domino effect, right? Neil, I mean, it really puts more pressure on doctors and pharmaceutical companies because now you need more prescriptions because of a health ailments that could have actually easily been resolved for a simple procedure, now it's a whole domino effect of saying, it's almost like keep getting the pharmaceutical companies, keep them in business. So, hey, you need more meds for this now and meds for this reason. And, and meanwhile, you didn't need it in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that when you look at all the provinces that are minimally conservative, provincially speaking, I posted something in my live story on Facebook from this lady on TikTok where sometimes you can save a video and it gets downloaded to your. It's like only a minute and a half, but she's talking about how the conservatives want to go back to the 1950s where there were no people with who were trans or gay or anything, and that the government really wants to put people with disabilities behind closed doors, back in institutions, back where this isn't, we don't see it, it's not there, and that's their mentality, to make the wealthy super wealthy and sweep everybody else under the rug that's not desirable to the government. And so we have to kind of watch that because the conservatives are all about that, right? The liberals will pretend not to be like that, but at the end of the day, they're all punching the same clock as far as I'm concerned.
Brent has a show and tell.
Yeah, show and tell. Yes. Can you read that, Neil?
The past session, our NDP team used our power in a minority parliament to force the government to create a dental plan for seniors, people with disabilities, and all those under 18. The expansion will make dental care accessible for many people in our community. I encourage you to follow my mail outs, social media channels, and emails to stay up to date. As always, my team is here to answer any questions you have about eligibility requirements and application process and more.
Yeah, and that's actually from MP Laurel Collins from Victoria, and so she just Sonia just brought that in. It just got dropped in the mail slot in our door from Canada Post. Had dropped this off, so yeah, basically they're focusing on their national dental plan across our beautiful country of Canada. So yeah, I mean, if you want to find out more, Jesse, definitely contact your local MP. Contact Laurel Collins, the MP for Victoria. I'm sure that.
And we did want to get Benita back on. Remember, like we wanted to. I mean, she was only on for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
but if we had her on for longer, we wanted to talk about the dental plan, and we just ran out of time. So next time she comes on, we'll want to talk about that one.
Yeah, definitely. MP Bonita Zarello. Yeah, because I remember last time we had her on, she wanted to talk more in depth regarding exactly what you just read, Neil, to our listeners and our viewers here. And of course, her colleague Laurel Collins put it out, brochure out today. So it'd be very interesting to hear more about how that's going to work and how in conjunction it's going to work on provincial versus the federal one. How is that going to work on? I'm really interested about the clawbacks. I mean, I know people are thinking, oh, my geez, Brent's pulling a funny pull. Here you go, have some teeth. Oh no, here we're pulling back out again. But
I think my gut is that they made a deal with the provinces. The question is, let's say they said, well, we want all the provinces to be covered for X amount of people in age groups X, Y, and Z. And to offset that, we're going to give you a chunk of funds over top of what you got before in the transfer of payments. The question is, would the Doug Fords use that money from that over top money? Let's say it's 3 million or 3 billion or whatever it is. Will he just hoard it, or will he actually apply it to look like he's being the good guy? Because I don't think he's doing well in the polls either. I think he's starting to piss off. Like there was a lady who said she was on TikTok. She said, "For 30 years I've been a conservative voter, but after this Service Canada thing, I'm done."
Yeah, I
And-
mean, a
And
lot of
these are
Yeah.
people that are earning decent money, and they're walking away from the party that they've supported for 30 years. So I don't think Dougie's doing too well in his camp.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a concern, and who's going to qualify for it, and that basically to jump into finding out from the MPs on who's like what category of people with disabilities. Of course, that category again, you can have, but you can't have, and it's like pinning disabled people against disabled people.
And it's not just Ontario, Brent. It's
Yeah,
we've
everywhere.
got people in Alberta going, okay, Daniel has definitely crossed the line now. I'm done. Like she's bringing in these right wing people like Tucker Carlson, and my daughter is one lady was on there saying, I've been a conservative voter for 35 years. She said, my daughter came out as lesbian. She's 15 years old, and what these politicians on the conservative side want to do is absolutely see these conservatives that are backwards thinking, back to hearkening to the days of the 1950s, and their attitudes towards people with disabilities and gay LGBTQ and all that is backfiring on them huge, because they're losing.
No,
They're
it's not.
starting to lose their core. They're not losing all of them, but they're starting to lose. They're starting to lose their voters.
Go ahead,
their
MG.
supporters.
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Think so.
mean, see, here's the thing: is we're in a current situation here of ideologies clashing, and the problem we have here is with people we have, strong beliefs about their ideologies. I mean, and I get both sides of the argument, and I understand both sides of the argument. I just look deeper behind, where is this idea or ideology coming from? Who's proposing this ideology, and why are they proposing this ideology? And is this ideology harmful to people? That's the big question I ask. Is the ideology permanently harmful to people? Right? So when I look at these things, I look at this from, where's the idea come from? Who proposed it and why? Right? And I sit here and I question the bigger picture. So when I look at this stuff of, going and, I don't care if people are gay or lesbian or whatever, right? But what I do have a question about is having permanent reassignment surgery for people that haven't left their teenage years, because their brain is still developing. They still haven't been able to experience any life. They might change their sexuality again, but once this is done, these types of surgeries, it's irreversible. And this is something that truly needs to be considered when we're going down these paths, is how much permanent harm is it going to give to these people? Like it or not, we can't sit here and ignore reality of harm. And if we're going to do something that's irreversible, that causes permanent damage and permanent harm to somebody, we need to go and question it. This is why we question MAiD. This is why we question everything. We question MAiD and we argue about it and we discuss it on this show about the permanent ramifications of it. So when I look at these ideas and all ideologies, I question, even from the right, from the left, from the middle, everywhere. Does this cause permanent harm to society or to multiple individuals? And it's this question that should be asked and should be answered by the politicians who are proposing these ideas and ideologies, right? So we can't sit here and, diminish or just blindly accept that this idea is the best idea or this ideology is the best ideology without questioning whether or not there's permanent harm. So, I mean, I'm not against people going and having this surgery, but they should have it from a place of complete understanding of where this, all of this comes from and where and what it will do to them. So
Mm.
we can't,
Oh, I agree with
if-
you, MJ. I
you
think
know,
I was
it's like-
trying to.
And I do not,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why. So I had sterilization surgery. Both my fallopian tubes are removed at 32. Because I'm 32 and I'm female, I was told I would change my mind about having children. I did not. I'm 39. I still don't want them. I don't want no little bugger growing in my body, but the government wants to control my body, the body that they're not going to take care of. They're not going to be there if I have a miscarriage. They're not going to be there if the baby is in the fallopian tube the wrong way. They do not care what happens to my body unless they make a profit from it. Right now, women cannot get the abortion that they need. They cannot make a choice that they need in America because some government wants to control our body. So when people are saying, oh, you'll change your mind. Oh, you don't know yet. Oh, your brain is still developing. When people know exactly who they are, they do not need anybody else changing their mind because they're not going to be there. If you force a person to live a life they do not want to, they will find ways to end their life. It is that simple.
Yes, and the bigger
Putting a
argument,
person in a box and say, oh, you have to wait. Oh, you have to go through an evaluation. Oh, you have to go through this doctor. I don't need a doctor to tell me I don't want children. I already know that. That was the whole point I went to the doctor. If I could do the medical procedure myself, I would. But because we literally, certain decisions we cannot physically make because we're not medically trained, we're stuck waiting for some third party person to do the decision that we've already decided. The level that we obsess over and over again to the point where we become depressed. We have anxiety because we're living a life that is not true to us. But we have to wait for a whole political party around the world to come tell me that I cannot live the life I want to have.
But I think
I'm not, that's not what I'm saying.
yeah,
What
I was
what
gonna
I'm saying is,
yeah.
is that we should have a complete understanding of if you're going to go through with an irrevocable decision that cannot be reversed, then you should know all the facts and all the ramifications of it before you walk into it, right? You did. You knew what you wanted. I mean, I'm not saying, that.
The whole time, I knew exactly what I wanted. My doctor dragged it out for 4 years.
Right, and that's
for 4 years, dragging it out for 4 years.
That's
Because we have a
inexcusable.
system that the doctor knows best when the doctor doesn't know best.
And that's inexcusable. In my opinion, what he did to you was he caused some harm to you. Right? And their first tenet is do no harm, but yet he dragged it out for 4 years when you were decisive about the situation, and that caused a psychological damage to you. And it may have or not, but from what you're saying, it caused problems, and you didn't want to have to deal with this, right? And he kept goofing you around, and that's not right.
Yeah, and
okay?
the other piece.
I think the point.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other piece that MJ was talking about that I agree with totally is because I'm a parent, I don't like it when the government is starting to trample over parental rights and saying, well, that we have more authority over your kids than you do. That's another, like we were talking about with the fentanyl thing. I mean, that's just one example.
Right.
But I don't want the government to come in and say, you as a parent, Neil, your authority doesn't matter over your own child. We're going to step in and veto, and that's what I have a problem with too. So, and we're going to be talking about, MJ was talking about reality, and we're going to be talking about pink unicorns as the last statement. So we'll get there. We'll get talking about reality versus pink unicorns. So
I think I got off track a little bit. I was just trying to point out that even with the ideology of the Conservative Party in itself is losing traction with its what do you call it? The people, its supporters, with its supporter base. But what I was trying to say is that in the course of the dental, with the clawbacks on the dental plan, I don't think people like Doug Ford, who are not being very popular right now, with
Mhm.
selling our private healthcare, and the fact that Danielle is bringing in right-wing ideologies, people that their own
So-
base is starting, their own base is starting to walk away.
So
That's all I was trying to
parental
say.
rights is
Yeah,
now,
thank
you
you,
know,
Dylan.
the worst part of this is parental rights is now becoming part of the right-wing ideology, Neil. Congratulations. Congratulations. You know,
Yeah.
the left, there's a graphic that Elon Musk posted about the left moving farther to the left, and people are staying here. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I didn't change. Okay.
Mm.
I've been exactly where I've been. You guys are the ones that have gone farther down the road.
Yeah,
Right?
it's like this
And
way.
now you're claiming that I'm right wing. No, I never changed.
Yeah.
Right? I'm absolutely for parental rights. If you're, if you have to pay for all the expenses for this child till they go and move out, then you should have the rights over this child. Unless you're causing permanent and irreversible harm, that's when I start to go and question about whether or not your parental rights are conflicting with causing harm, right? Because I'm I'm about one of these people that's like, if we're, the government in of itself should be, pardon my language, just stay the fuck out of our lives for the most part, and stop trying to dictate how we should be going and living, or how we should be believing, or what ideologies should be presented in the school against parents' wishes or whatever. I mean, each parent should have that right to go and say, no, I don't want my child to be part of this, or I do want my child to be part of this.
That's
I want my
really
child to. Sorry, Neil?
That's where
That's
autonomy.
what. Yeah, autonomy. Yeah.
Autonomy.
Well, and
Yeah.
there's, and this is where we're having a clash of ideologies, and people are saying, well, this is right wing. In fact, this was a liberal ideology of parental rights, right?
Mhm.
This was classical liberal. So
It feels like the GPS, when the GPS says
they go like
recalibrating, recalibrating,
Yeah.
recalibrating.
We
Yeah.
we kind of let the genie out of the
Thank you,
bottle so many years ago that
Yeah.
now we're going like, what are we supposed to do with this damn genie? It keeps
We
giving
need
us
to go-
wishes,
you know,
and
this
then
way.
I mean,
You need
I'm for individuals making the best decision for them.
Mhm.
But when they're a child and under the age of 18 living in their parents' house, right? That's a parent should be where the parents are involved. Right?
And no, I would think no, because decisions my parents made for me is the reason I left home at 18 years old. The second I didn't have, like my doctors said, your parents don't have to be in the room anymore. My parents hated that. They hated that I could make decisions for myself by myself the minute I turned 16. And the minute I turned 18, they hate it. Even now, I still have arguments with my parents of, oh, we didn't raise you that way. But I never believed the thing they were pushing on me to begin with. But because I'm under the age of 18, I'm forced to believe something that I don't believe until I wait the minute I'm out of the house. So some of us are like in situations, the parents should take over. Some parents push really messed up ideologies,
Yeah, and that's
systems
right,
on
and
their children.
that's fair.
Right,
that's
Minnie,
fair.
and that's where I said about parental rights versus causing harm to the child, right? I mean, I'm not sitting here going and saying that the child should be forced. I'm saying that parents in general should have that right. But if they're causing permanent or irreversible harm to their own children, that's when, a child's rights should be very examined carefully. I'm not going and saying that they should be forced in one way. I'm saying that there has to be an equilibrium and a balance. And the problem is the equilibrium and the balance is going to be pushed towards where the government's saying, well, we know what's best for your children. And that's a dangerous precedent to be setting. Right?
I mean, I think we have to start with the understanding that all things being equal, like assuming,
right.
I'm assuming that most parents, like, in Minnie's case, I mean, obviously she didn't have the parents that supported her the way she wanted to be supported.
And I couldn't tell anybody. It's not like I could tell the school
Right.
or tell the police officers or tell another person in authority that my parents are having me believe something I don't believe because it causes another problem.
Yeah.
So
Is
out
that
of
right?
survival, you're literally doing all you can just to get to the next day, just until you turn 18. So great. Housing situation looks fine on paper. They're doing the basic necessities. Great. My dad put me in braces. Great. They had us in school. We had clean clothes, but at the same time, the belief system that they wanted me to believe. And if I didn't believe it, it's a huge, huge argument where I didn't get dinner, but you wouldn't know that because my dad went to work the next day at TTC. So how are you supposed to know? And then
Exactly.
we don't even know who to tell that my parents want me to do something that I don't want to do. We don't even know who the person's safe to talk to about things at home that are not going well.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't have that until I turned 18. And then when I did tell my teacher in grade 7, it was great. It was like, oh, go back, talk to your parents. What was I supposed to do? You tell the
Yeah.
teacher something bad at home is going bad. You
Right.
send you back to your parents. Child services comes and does the little interview. But if they think your home environment is fine, they still keep you there. They don't automatically put you into another environment. You're still in the environment until you're legally not able to go to school or emancipate yourself that you're on your own.
I
Well,
would have to agree.
well, again,
I'd be in Mimi's camp. I had a very close friend I went to high school with. Her and her brother, they were twins actually. They were born at the same time. They were the same age. I think they're 2 minutes apart. Um, on the surface, the family looked very loving. Station wagon in the driveway, minivan, the whole Volvo, whatever you.
Right.
Everything looked fine, but the kids, the two twins, had locks on their windows, and their parents could lock their room from the outside hallway. Like, and nobody knew. It was by fluke that they were allowed to have a sleepover for their 16th birthday. Um, and I was invited to the house party, and but it was all the kids had to come with their families. Like their parents had to be there. That was the rule of the house. So if a kid came over for the sleepover, his parents had to be there until all the kids were tucked in and stuff. And
Mhm.
the boys couldn't hang out with the girls. It was the amount of the level of control in that house made me sick. I wanted to go. I actually told my mom I wanted to go home. I was like, I'm not getting locked in some bedroom where I can't. I have to knock to use the bathroom. You know, like I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like,
We
and
get to
right,
Dan's take on this. Dan, do you have any insight or like maybe comment on this topic?
Oh, you would, wouldn't you, buddy?
I add
So
to Dan.
I'll try to be as quick as possible. So long story short, I have a 28-year-old kid. And when they were about 19 or 20, and keep in mind, I'm not trying to fucking dox myself or anything, but keep in mind that from about, I don't know, probably about 8 years old till about 17 years old, I didn't have a partner in life. I didn't have that option for whatever reasons, right? Story for another day. But at about 19 or 20 years old, they came out to me as non-binary, and we grew up in different times. Point blank, bottom line is you accept your kid for your kid. You accept your children for your children. And these issues were not going on when she was growing up. Sorry, when they were growing up. So bottom line is accept your family, accept your kids. And it's such, I was trying to keep my mouth shut for that whole segment there because everybody was making great points, and I didn't want to say something wrong. I'm old school, right? I love my kid no matter what. My kid is 6 foot tall and almost 250 pounds. So I don't care, guy, girl, pony, whatever the fuck it is, you fuck with them and they're going to fuck you up. So respect your kids, listen to your kids. And like I said just a couple times, and sorry if I'm repeating, I'm going to sit back and listen on this one because I'm a supporter, but I don't want to. I'm going to sit back on this one.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. And, because there's always there's so many viewpoints, right? And I guess kind of like to summarize the topic is, and everyone's right. It's like it's like the government's pulling people, like trying to pull people this way or that way because this is what we're saying has to be done or this way. And like for me, I've been here, and and I don't get swayed either way. I just I just live my life the way it is, whatever it may be. I mean, and it's like saying the national anthem. The national anthem. I guess just to conclude my viewpoint is like our national anthem is our national anthem. Now it's like, oh, they have to change the wording, this and that, or I remember I worked at a company, and many years ago, before we move on to our next topic, and well, we can't put up Christmas trees now because it's going to offend other people. I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know where society's going on things, and things are changing so fast. So I hear you. I hear you on that, Dan. And,
The bottom line of it is you got to read the fucking room, right? It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
the situation is. Doesn't matter if it's a Christmas tree. It doesn't matter if my kid comes to me and says that they're non-binary and pan. It doesn't matter what the fuck the situation is. You got to
Yeah.
read the room, and really, I hate the saying, but the saying "work together." You got
Yes,
to work
yes.
together because it's certain issues. I'm sitting here and I'm mum as a motherfucker, right? I don't know what the proper words are to express because it's not a situation that I face every day. So as we do in this group, and I'm sorry, MJ, I just saw your hand up, my bad. As we do in this group, we share our ideas and then try to brainstorm and come up with something that works for everybody, right?
Absolutely, Dan. That's the thing, is work together, brainstorm. You couldn't have said it any better than me on that one. Thanks on that. Over to you, MJ, and then over to Neil, and we'll change up to the next topic.
Well, I'm looking at this from the idea of the least amount of harm. And that's how I kind of look at things is what can we do to cause the least amount of permanent harm to ourselves, society, everything else. And we've jumped on this idea. It's like we were talking about straws earlier. I mean, we went from the kitchen into the fire of now we're drinking from a straw that's leaching chemicals into us. Excuse me. It's like, so, I mean, when it comes to this whole nudge thing of going on, we have this massive nudge of ideologies pushing over into weird different directions that we shouldn't be going, and it's just, I look at this from the point of view as you do you.
A series screenshot.
You do you. Oh, you're unmuted, Alan. You do you. Let's not go and sit here and fight and argue about what you should be doing. You should be doing what's best for you, right? Your doctor shouldn't be sitting here saying, well, and writing out, the situation like with Minnie for 4 years. That's unacceptable to me. I'm sorry, but that's abusive behavior from people in powers of authority and positions of, positions of authority. And I find that unacceptable, I mean, but when it comes to, things that, as long as you know where what the point of what you're doing is, the ramifications of what you're doing, you understand what's this means, fine and dandy, right? I mean, I am not one to go and say, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that. You do you, and you should know all the ramifications of it. And let's, the problem is all these ideologies sit there and take a piece of the pie. You got the political pie, and then they divide it up. And then you get multiple groups taking on the same wedge issues and dividing that issue up into making even more of a wedge issue. So we end up fighting amongst ourselves and fighting over things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of everything, right? I'm not saying don't matter, but they're not the prevalent issues, right? I mean, we've got massive homelessness, we've got massive, people using massive amounts of drugs to go and deal with coping with the current situation that they're living in. We've got all of these things going on to where people are just thinking, well, the only way out of this is MAiD, instead of our government going and saying, let's solve the problem. Let's get out of the way. Let's give people, say, $4,000 a month. Let's get them back on track. Let's get their lives going. Let's stop goofing around. No, let's go and make their lives more difficult. Let's give you more codes to have to figure out which to go and get your medical procedures done. Let's sit here and make it difficult for you to get a brand new CPAP machine if you're on disability and need one. They play all of these games to the point of where people just say, what is the point? What is the point anymore? So you end up with people becoming homeless, then they get involved in doing drugs and crime, and it makes the situation worse when the government won't look to solve the actual problem. Anyways, I'm done. waiting on.
Thanks on that, MJ. Yeah, rightfully said. It's all these different crises that are going on all at the same time, and the government goes, "Ooh, how did this all happen? I mean, who created all this? Well, gee, I wonder. Who's running the country? Who's running the provinces? I mean, work together. Government, work together. This figure it out. I mean, talk to all the disabled people across Canada. I mean, millions. The stats say 1.5 million people estimate that are on provincial government assistance. Now that number keeps growing every month, every year. Now, I mean, those are the ones on the government assistance. I mean, there's people that are on income assistance in each province that are pending to get onto disability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and those numbers keep growing. Of course, government says, "Oh, well, you're suffering. Well, you just go and use MAiD." Well, what are they trying to reduce down the caseloads? Well, I mean, now the kickback is that people are saying, "Hey, no, this is not right." I mean, people that are basically parents of the disabled people, their direct family, their allies to the disabled people are now pushing back. Even doctors are pushing back. Practitioners looking at it, going, "Hey," to the government, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, what, And now the government says, "Oh, hang on, we better put a pause on this. We better put a pause. No, cancel it. Only if the person is terminally ill." Or I mean, there's so many things. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, there's so many reasons why the person needs to have MAiD. But if it's because they are not given the proper financial resources or the tools to help themselves, then
like we just found out that King Charles has cancer,
right?
And I'm going to bring this in the context of MAiD, right? If his cancer got to the point of being terminal, and he decided that he was going to go and sign up for MAiD and do this because there's nothing left for them to do, right? They've tried everything. I would be 100% in support of this because he has the right to die with dignity,
right?
Instead of sitting there getting sicker and sicker and and dying to his last breath of holding on and being excruciating pain, right? I mean, I'm just putting this into context of we allowing people forcing people to suffer through excruciating pain of cancer or any other disease, in my opinion, is doing harm, and it's abusive behavior that our governments have created. To where so it just, I don't know, it just behooves society to go and question, what road are we going down to, and is this the road that we want to travel? Or do we need to take a U-turn real quickly?
Yeah, and that's why the disabled community across Canada were calling for DURB, right? I mean, DURB, whatever we want to call it going forward. There's petitions going out. There's a demand of getting the federal government to get that Canada Disability Benefit going. And more power to the MPs that are pushing to get it going faster. I still think it's going to be a long way before it even reaches people's bank accounts. However, people are suffering now. They need help now. A UABI would solve that whole problem, or any version of that right now would solve people's needs going forward, because these patchwork systems across the country. I mean, sure.
Can we do the song? UBI.
UABI. Yeah, that'll be another segment. Like we'll jump into talking about the reasons all the patchwork systems, and I'd love to dive into a lot of that. We'll move on to the next topic for sure.
The next statement is broken elevators remain very still. Broken elevators remain very still. Go.
Okay. Broken elevators remain very still. In my building, we had an elevator that just keeps on getting tweaked, and not fixed. Why? Because they don't make the parts anymore, apparently, for the elevator. So broken elevator is very still. So now you're stuck on a floor. The door closes. You have to hope that door is now going to open. Well, if you don't have a phone with you, well, when you're hitting the alarm, well, it's just a local alarm. It doesn't go any further. You have to yell. And I mean, what if you can't? What if you are you can't
Having a
can't.
heart attack.
Yeah, yeah. If you're having a medical condition, something's happened to you, or you're claustrophobic. I mean, now that creates a whole another issue in itself. And then the management company says, "Oh, I guess we better get that fixed, but that's going to cost. Who's going to pay for it?" Now, under the BC, I think there is a part. MJ, I think there is a part in the act now that says that if there's a major problem within a building, it allows the owner to pass on that cost off to the tenants. Yeah, I heard something about that, but no, that was a couple of years ago. But I think it's still there.
The inspiration for this statement, by the way, I don't. You remember, Brent? It was like I think 4 years ago, maybe 4 Christmases ago, I think. When, like, again, it was in the month of December, like early December. There was a place where the elevator had gone out, and the landlord refused to fix it. It was for over a month. It stayed broken for over a month, and this is all for the entire month of December. So you had people that were unable to leave their building over the Christmas holidays for the entire month of December and beyond, and I think a little bit before that, even like in November. So the thing was out of service for it was at least a month, maybe like 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
And the landlord refused to fix it.
I remember that, Neil, and imagine somebody in a mobile scooter or a wheelchair up on a high floor. I mean, you got some tall high rises. Imagine 18 floors or 36 floors up, and the elevator breaks down. What are you supposed to do? Carry them down? Stairs? No, because then the person in that wheelchair or any kind of accessibility device says, "No, I want to do it myself. I want to be independent. I want to be able to move myself around because I'm disabled, I still want to be able to do it myself." And not being able to be provided that elevator to get them up and down, or if it was, it's just it just really makes me mad because buildings need to be maintained properly. And then you get there are good landlords out there, and I'm not going to say people watching it saying, "What? He's calling out landlords or slum." No, unfortunately, there are some slumlords out there that just do not want to fix their buildings. They would rather let it decrepit down, and then they say, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to sell it," and now makes people now homeless.
I was thinking of making a rental company that actually was called Slumlords Incorporated, but
Anyone else want to chime into that?
So
I mean, I was stuck in the elevator before, but yeah.
Toronto had a power out. That was my building. At least one of my I was one of the many buildings.
Ooh.
So I'm on the 7th floor. So going downstairs was pretty easy. And then upstairs, I got tired of the 5th floor, but it was fine. It's the 5th floor. I'm on the 7th. But some of us were in the lobby when the power went out because we had one outlet in the lobby that charged cell phones, which so the level of we're literally hanging on to our technology because we still have access to the internet. But we eventually talked about the elevators because the power went out, and then we're like, "Is anybody in the elevator?" And I'm like, "There's an alarm in the elevator. It should be working." Like my building does the alarm testing all the time. The handicap buttons for the laundry room and the front door, they work. And then during the power outage, we kept the door open because you couldn't tap your card to come in.
Right.
And then there's a person on the 1st floor. He's in a scooter. He's on the 1st floor. So he had a radio. So he would come out and update us about the power outage. But some buildings really don't care, or then some buildings they care because the building beside them didn't care. So my building does all the things it's supposed to do because the building besides had a huge fire. Like because they're trying, and the way that they were offering tenants who lived here a long time $5,000 to move to their other buildings.
And sent up, yeah.
I don't want, I can't afford, even if I get $5,000, I can't afford the next building.
Exactly.
And the next like the next neighborhood or the next whatever, because this building bought more buildings, and then they bought townhouses, and they're trying to get some of the older tenants to move to the townhouses. And it may not be accessible. Like the way that they have a walk-up building that's only stairs. So if you have a walk-up building that's only stairs, and then you become disabled where you're on that walker that has that built-in seat automatically in there,
Yeah.
you're not going upstairs.
Oh,
You're
no,
not-
definitely not.
And then the way that the building was, some people lived up, like anybody above the 7th floor, they had to walk up the stairs, and they came into the building and found the power went out.
Oh.
They were very upset. They were like,
Yeah.
fuck, I have to walk upstairs. So
Have to get a fire ladder to basically take them down.
whatever the situation is, of whether it's this TTC elevator not working, or your building elevator not working, or your building has tap cards for everything with automatic doors, then people break them. So even though it's accessible, it's supposed to use the accessible button, people force it. People don't wait long enough for the machine to work and do the automated thing to open the door. So we're dealing with able-bodied people who use the accessible buttons, and they are probably the ones breaking it, whether it's kids breaking it or accessible people who are impatient breaking it, that when a disabled person needs the access to that service, we broke it. Like there's also that. So not only the building is trying to stay up to code and be accessible to everybody, they also deal with people who are breaking the stuff that they're paying for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so it's beyond frustrating, right? Because it puts a whole barrier to people to be able to to get to and from where they need to get to, and that's a huge roadblock there. I mean, it's just I feel sorry for anyone who's on a higher up floors. I mean, people that are able to climb upstairs, I mean, great. I mean, more power to them if they can.
I'm on the first floor for a reason, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
like my building has a running updated list of who needs extra support during an emergency, but it's the fire department that's going to do it. It's not like unless the tenants volunteer, depending on other tenants in the building, they volunteer to help someone come down the stairs during an emergency. But we're hoping the community of the building is reasonable, helpful, and then that the building keeps track of who needs accessible services during an emergency, plus also paying for the cost of if kids break the handicap buttons, the wheelchair buttons, they're paying for that. They're like, luckily that part of rent is not increasing, but it's definitely one of the things that they added to the list of reasons why they wanted the above gear guideline. Because the money's coming from somebody. Either the building is just going to take it as the expense of the building, or they're going to pass it on to the tenants. And if the tenants are breaking the things we need, I'm paying for something that someone is breaking that doesn't need to be. You don't need to touch the button 600 times. You don't need to force the door, but people are doing that. Even when I go for laundry or grocery shopping, I go up the ramp because I have my little cart, and then if someone comes down with a wheelchair, they don't even give space. Like the way that they take up the whole ramp and don't give space. And if the button is broken, like for people that have invisible disabilities that need it's a whole thing. People just need to be educated and care and not damage the thing that's supposed to help people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
MJ was trying to show something on his phone, but the filter on your screen was
apparently BC Premier announces resignation of Minister Selina Robinson amid growing NDP backlash. She made apparently an Islamophobic comment with regards to Palestine, with regards to being Palestine as a crappy piece of land with nothing on it, January 30th. So she's resigned.
She resigned.
Breaking news.
She resigned from cabinet. So I don't know if she's still going to be a member of the party or not, but doesn't look good because the rest of the article basically says that the Islamic groups have basically told the NDP they're persona non grata with any of their organizations and sacred spaces at this moment.
Yeah, I was been following it very closely, and they basically, a lot of groups were basically abolishing the political party from doing any fundraisers within the community of Surrey, and it's not good. So they were supposed to have a fundraiser event last night for the campaign. I mean, gearing up for our election in October. I mean, unless the party decides to call one sooner, but on paper, it's supposed to be October, I believe it's October 19th of this year. And so all the parties are gearing up, right? They're getting their campaigns going. And so they're supposed to have one last night. There was $150 tickets to go to this event. The party had to pull the plug on it last minute because everything that was going on there. It's not very unfortunate. So with that being said, they just said, yeah, there was people, insiders within the party, were actually trying to convince other members of the party to basically sign a petition to basically try to oust out the minister from her role. And yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Well, you know, I hate to say it, you got to mind what you say. You know,
Right.
if you know, sometimes that internal dialogue needs to stay internal.
And that's the thing, right? Because like I was saying to Tanya earlier, MJ, is it's like, if you don't want to say something that you don't want to have it being broadcast, think about what you're going to say first, because once you throw it out there, and it's out there, right?
Exactly. It's like there may be groups of people that are, that are sitting here chairing this event. And my thing is, I just look at this from the point of view that, sharing somebody's misfortune or missteps just shows weakness, in my opinion. It shows a weakness of your position if you're cheering somebody that made a mistake or had an internal thought that they decided to dialogue, and believe me, I've done that quite a few times. So, I know exactly. She's probably realized the moment she said it, I just shot myself in both feet.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like when you say something and you say, "Oh shoot, why did I say that?" I remember a time when the MAiD discussion came out. I used to say that on my Twitter space. And I don't really regret fully, but I didn't know all the sides to it, right? And I said, well, hey, like, yeah, I remember saying to a person, I don't want you to go and kill yourself, right? We'll keep advocating going forward, but not knowing the person's situation of saying, well, like, I'm suffering, you know what I mean? And it's like one of those things of going, oh, Brent, like, why did you say that? But not meaning to say it that way. But so I understand, like, you know what I mean? It's, yeah.
Well, this is why you hear me searching for words, is because I'm trying to find the right way to say it without,
me too, yeah.
without being offensive, Yeah. It's like my brain goes, I can go this road, or maybe I should just go over here, Anyways, we do have hands here.
I'm in the same boat, though. It's like, you want to be careful on what you say, but how you say it, because it's like it can be perceived the wrong way. Meanwhile, you don't mean it that way, and then it's tough, right? But as my mom used to always say to me, MJ, and everyone, you make your bed, you sleep in it, right?
We've got a couple hands, and we've got a couple more questions, or not questions, statements to get through. So we'll try to go fast, but we'll start with Ellen.
Did we look at chat? If chat has people talking?
Chat is pretty quiet. There was one person in chat, but it's been pretty quiet actually. So yeah. Go ahead, Ellen. Oh, you're muted, Ellen, actually. You have to unmute, Ellen.
I don't know how that happened. I'll mute myself for safety of others. I have actually been stuck in an elevator in Jamestown when I was first moved to Toronto. That was fun. 2 in the morning, I took the garbage down. Dang elevator stuck, but that's a whole different stuff. So what's the next question? What's our next statement?
We want to go to the next one. Did you want to say something before we move on, Dan, or are you good?
I'll just be very quick. I'm starting to think that Minnie and myself live in the same fucking building, man. So like back to the broken elevator thing, very briefly, is that in Toronto, Ontario. So it's either the parts are up to the province and the labor is up to the city, or vice versa. So I would advise do your homework on that. Like, I don't know personally, but it's one or the other. And like, it's a great analogy and conversation piece because it shows the way the government's passed the buck. And lastly, if you guys are having an election October 19th, that's my fucking birthday. Tell them to push it to the 20th. Thanks.
You're on there twice, Brent? Or you did that on purpose?
Oh, I did that on purpose, yeah.
Okay.
Just, yeah, 1 sec.
Mute one
because-
account, please.
Yeah, because now you're gonna get feedback. So you want to mute one.
I think it's interesting that all elevators in most cities I lived in have 2 elevators in them, especially the high rises. But I know the one I got stuck in, I was in there for 3.5 hours, and I know that the owners of that particular building, which I think was 20 stories, had the second elevator out of commission for almost 5 months. So they were down to 1 elevator. But that's not uncommon. I've heard in a lot of those buildings in the 70s and 80s. What's our next?
Yeah. Okay.
Our
So
next one.
so we'll go to the next question or the next statement. The 14 number 14 is wheelchairs are not optional. That's 14. Go.
Okay, housekeeping, Brent, you're getting feedback apparently from the speaker. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, am I now good?
You're good now.
Yeah, it's just audio feedback. That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
I think you're
I
good
think-
now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elevator.
No, you're only allowed to have half a wheelchair, Neil. That's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
Yes. Back
Live with
wheels
it.
or front wheels or
They
you
do
get
really.
like right down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. We all know what the inspiration of that statement was, of course, because I've shared my thing of the government only paying for half my wheelchair because supposedly I'm only half disabled or something. I'm only half deserving, but yeah. So this should be a
My gut is fucking killing me, man.
Yeah, no.
They rent a brick wall halfway through your apartment. You already got half a couch,
You can
Yeah.
if you're halfway
kitchen
through there.
table, and
yeah.
Well,
it could be a movie. Half the man.
You know, and again, the thing that really bothers me too is because this is really, honestly, the first time ever in since going on disability about 15 years ago. It was roughly 15 years ago when I went on disability for the first time, and it's the first time in that 15 years that I actually asked the government to pay for anything like a big ticket item like a wheelchair. It's the first time ever. Prior to that, I was paying for everything, including like I paid for 4 different scooters, all out of my own pocket. I've paid for all of the repairs, all of the flat tires, all of the batteries, all of my crutches. I've had many pairs of crutches. I paid for all of it. And so the very first time, the only time in my life in 15 years of being on assistance, I come to them for one time and said, "Can you please pay for a wheelchair? I really need it." And the OT said, "Yes, he really needs it. He's got a broken hip now. He's got limited mobility. He really needs it to get out of the house and go to church and that." And they're like, "Well, we'll pay for half."
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I really hope your premier is listening to this fucking shit. Your premier and Justin Trudeau, I swear to God, and then I'll shut my pie hole. But I swear to God, the rest of my day is going to be spent sending them messages. This is horseshit.
Yeah, it was just, it's stupid.
right,
But
and this is why
it's
I get my beef is with sorry, Mammy, you go ahead.
it's with every assisted devices. Like for me, it's the air conditioner. The ODSP only gave me $300 for the air conditioner. And for me to have enough air conditioning power to do at least part of my apartment, not even the whole thing, the thing costs $700 plus the installation. So and with my health condition, if I get worse in multiple sclerosis, I may need a wheelchair. And I'm already mentally planning that the government's not going to pay for all of it. Like the level of, they're not going to fund everything. So, and then the surgery I need, they're only covering part of the breast reduction. What am I supposed to do part of a breast reduction? It's my body. You're literally cutting up my body saying I need the fat needs to be reduced, and you're only gonna do a certain amount, and you're not gonna close me up, you're not gonna pay for the anesthesiologist, you're not gonna book the operating room. There's so many things that are not going to do to give you $2,000 or $3,000 for something that's $20,000 when it's in the part of the healthcare system that's in the private sector, because it's cosmetic plastic surgeons or a whole different category of billing, and they're not going to pay for it. If like me, my biggest dread with me having my health condition is if progressing and then needing a wheelchair, because I already know the government's not going to take it. My neurologist doesn't like ODSP. So when I'm prescribed anything and it's like, what's your insurance? It says ODSP. The dentist like, I fucking hate ODSP. So I literally go into doctor's offices that don't like the insurance. They don't want to deal with them. They don't want to send in the requests for them. And these are people that been my healthcare providers for decades.
Well, yeah, they don't like the government.
Decades and decades. They knew I was going on assistance. They knew I was going to ODSP. They filled out all the forms. They were really at the applying for ODSP, they really suggest I need to go on it. And then as I'm on it, they're literally telling me how much they hate it.
Yeah.
I was,
Like that's the
can't-
system we have. And then my doctor wants to reduce her patients. She reduced the patients and suggests you go to a private doctor. You pay $3,000 for a membership to go see a doctor. Now I'm considering pay off the credit card, pay a membership to have a doctor for a private doctor that has, like, you know exactly what the prices are. Disability tax credit, $200. This, like every form, everything, I know exactly what it costs to be disabled by the penny because of bouncing between government funded and private funded and partially exempt and fully exempt. It is ridiculous. You literally need to carry around $10,000 for all your medical expenses that's not covered by the government. I did the math. It's like, just add up everything it costs for you and your disability, and then figure out which ones are tax deductible on your income taxes and which ones are not covered by the government. And it's becoming 50-50, you and the government, that may or may not cover depending on who's in power.
We have Rosemary Dooley in chat, and she says,
Hi,
but
Rosemary.
they all get their raises every year.
Well,
The government, yeah.
well,
The government,
it's like,
I'm definitely
dealing
not
with,
disabled.
it's like, for example, I'm dealing with having to go and get a new CPAP machine. And right out of the gate, the guy went and said to me, "Oh, I'll give you the cheapest one possible, which is Dream Station 2. That's already got FDA notices about health and safety risks." Okay. And these are serious health and safety risks, including putting toxic chemicals into my lungs and noxious smells and things like this. And I'm like, I said to the guy, there's no way in hell I'm going to take an inferior product that's already on FDA notice, and if you keep, because, I'm expecting the government to try to give pushback. And then I'm going to call them up and tell them, you want me to take the device that's under FDA notice for serious health and safety risks already? That
Give them a box of paper straws in return and say, here.
There you go.
The level of, just because I'm on disability doesn't mean I should get the lowest quality product that's on the market.
Exactly.
Right?
That's how they think.
So when it comes to like a wheelchair or a breathing device or whatever it is, it's like they always try to find the cheapest possible solution that's going to break down sooner, or I'm going to have to be back here in 2 years going back to the government saying, hey, my CPAP machine is now being recalled. I need to go and get a new one. They're going to be freaking out. And I'm like, let's stop goofing around and get me something that's going to be quality. So it's going to last me a while. Let's stop the wasting time and money. Exactly.
MJ, look at just a simple fact that ODSP only covers $40 for eyewear frames and another 125 for lenses. I mean, that should just tell you everything you need to know about the bare minimum they're willing to do, because a lot of these lenses, I had to pay $250 out of pocket and part of that $250 was me buying my own Oakley frames off eBay, because I found a frame that's still being that's still being made, called Black Plate. I think that's what they're called. These. And I bought the frame privately.
Yeah, my frames are like $400.
And mine are children glasses, because that was the one I could afford. So we tried on the glasses. I got the student discount, still $420, but I'm wearing children glasses. Like the level of you're in the optometrist, you're trying to pick out the glasses, they're suggesting things that look good on your face. You're trying to feel good about the experience. And then as soon as you stop trying them on, you're like, how much is it going to cost? Do I really need the blue filter on my glasses? Like the level of I
Well,
understand when my dad was like, things are too expensive because my braces was $10,500 before I got out the wisdom teeth. And
New look optometry.
even now, I still hear from my dad, oh, your braces were so expensive. Your dental work was so expensive. And it was stuff I needed to get done. My mouth was too small to hold all my teeth. We had to pick and choose what teeth couldn't live in my mouth anymore. And then now we're picking and choosing how I take care of my dental cleaning. My dental cleaning is this month. I'm literally like freaking out because the night guard is now $600. That used to be $400 that I can't pay for. Yeah, having good credit, having like my available credit on my credit card is literally the only thing that keeps me making sure I get the things I need so that the doctor doesn't run a test and says, oh, you're worse than before.
Um,
Because the level like
Exactly.
you're picking and choosing with like my prescription. We did the prescription for my glasses. I need to change it for my left eye. But she said you could still wear your current glasses for another year or two. So I'm dragging it out because one is the only one pair of glasses. So when they send in my glasses to change out the lenses, I don't have another pair of glasses because the optometrists automatically assume you have more than one pair of glasses. No, some of us only have the one pair and we hope to God it doesn't break the whole time.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, I did
exactly.
for that angle.
I mean, I had to pay
That's
over
right.
$300 out of my own pocket for my glasses. I have two pairs of glasses. One's is for using on when I'm at my computer, and I have prescription sunglasses. You know,
I paid for
it's like
I
Yeah.
paid for my glasses. I paid for my son's glass.
Yeah.
So I have paid for everything, literally, right?
you know,
Um,
it's like they make you pick and choose.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I went
Um,
through that with the optometry when I got mine. They tried billing the medical for two pairs, and I got one pair out of it. And then they screwed up on my one pair because the prescription was way off whack, and I felt like I was like walking sideways, lopsided, and
Well,
anyway,
you know,
long
I,
story short,
I
I got
did,
mine now.
I did, Brent, was I went into this optometry store because I knew they sold Oakleys and Ray-Bans and the stuff that was going to last me. And I tried like 4 pairs on. I took photos, I made lists of the model numbers, and they're all like 300, 280, 400. The Oakley black plates were 475 for the frames in this store in downtown. So then I went on eBay and I was like, I started typing in every frame I could find to see which was on the best deal. And the black plate was my top choice. And the frames were 160 Canadian. And they haven't changed. They got the same frame I'm wearing from eBay sitting in their display department for 475 right now.
Wow.
Right? So I'm pretty savvy. Like if I want a pair of Ray-Ban prescription sunglasses, I will go and find the frames I like, and then I'll go look on eBay or marketplace, and I'll find them. And nine times out of 10, as long as you go with a good seller that's been on there a long time, you're pretty safe not to get a fake. I've got a pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarers that are non-prescription right now. I'm just waiting to find the funds to get my my prescription put into them, because my other Ray-Bans are starting to show wear an age. But I can't wear cheap sunglasses or cheap day glasses because I'm far too mobile, like just in my day to day. And with my cerebral palsy, I'm not that coordinated some days. As Neil would know, having it himself,
Yes.
Kenneth, being a bit of a butterfingers is
I can barely walk with this thing now. The walker, I can barely walk.
But
anyway,
but I mean, I would literally be like this, right? Like my glasses were, or I mean, it's a wonder I haven't dropped my good cameras. I think it's because I put the strapper on my neck first. But I've been trying to make some toast, just scraping on the jam, and the knife just starts flying. Like,
Oh geez. Oh my gosh, yeah.
like just like, or I'll try and hold on to a cup. All of a sudden, my brain's hold the mug and put it down on the counter, and that memo does not get to the hand.
Yeah.
The hand's
Yeah.
like, I can't take your call right now. Thanks for calling back later.
It's like a game of broken telephone, right? That's how I always
Yeah.
explain it to the kids. Yeah.
Someone's not holding
Yeah.
onto the other can with a string.
I
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah,
I
go ahead,
wanna
Neil.
I want to move on to the last because we're running out of time here, but I want to move on to
Yeah.
the last statement. It's pink unicorns is my favorite.
Oh, yes.
This one, number 15 is pink unicorns are real, even though they shouldn't be. And
They're not real?
so there you go. There's some visual aid for everybody.
Yeah, pink unicorn. Pink unicorns. Yeah, that's it. That's not real. I mean, this is just a bag, right? I mean, that's not real, but the government thinks that it is real because they want to justify
Or it is real, but they
people,
will
right?
deny it's real.
Yeah.
How about
Well,
that
yeah.
one? The inverse, it's real. Like 10 years ago, we would deny that MAiD was a thing. Oh, it's just for someone who's terminally ill. It's not real. And now here we are, and MAiD is real, and it's constantly being expanded as much as they can, and then claw back. So it's kind of MAiD is a perfect example of a pink unicorn.
Yeah.
You know, in its policies.
Well, I'll give you an example, and Neil knows, and everyone knows. I advocate a lot about the 375 guy, right? I also advocate about the bus pass. You can have a bus pass, but you can't have it because only a little handful of people in a rural area in British Columbia decided that, oh yeah, that I don't use the bus. So the minister at the time. Well, yeah. Actually, Neil, you could probably tell the story on that one. I'll pass that part to you in just a moment. But anyway, the whole system's changed because hey, but anyway, I'll get to the 375 guy topic here. So people who live in subsidized housing in British Columbia, they can have reduced subsidized rent, 30% of your income. So rent geared to income. People in market housing, they can have market rent, pay high market rent. But the government says, yeah, but that's a choice. That's a choice that you make. So you want subsidized housing, you take the housing that we provide you. Oh, you want to pay market housing rent? Then hey, but we're not going to extend that over to market rent to have subsidized housing because that's a choice, right? As pink unicorn, it's playing people against people. It's like when they gave $125 increase in the last provincial budget last year, February 28th of 2023. $125 went to people in market housing, but people in subsidized housing, they didn't get it. Their cost of living went up too. And it's like saying, well, what, they don't deserve to have $125? I mean, the buying power these days, it erodes away. I mean, cost of living's up. I mean, why shouldn't they have it? So what, they're going to gain a little bit more than people with disabilities? It's playing a disabled against disabled, but in their view, they justified it with the pink unicorn because they said it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, and
Well,
for anybody,
It's fair because we're screwing you all equally.
yeah, oh, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think the pink unicorn could also go into the ableism of people with disabilities. Like, buddy, you don't look disabled. I think you could go work full time at a restaurant and sling dishes for 10 hours. I think you're just playing the disability card.
Yeah,
That's a pink unicorn because especially non-visual disabilities like head injury or genetic disability or just a disability like mine and Neil's, where mine is so minimal that I've had a police officer accuse me of being drunk and being actually to the point where I had to make a formal complaint to the Niagara Region police officer. I thought he was going to get physically abusive to me. He'd already was starting to push me over the trunk of his car. Now, this was 10 years ago. And I'm like, I'm not drunk. I have a disability. That's why I slur. You're playing the card, buddy. Like he got suspended for 2 weeks. That's all he got.
Yeah.
But when you have an almost invisible disability, that is and society will sit there and tell you that you're lazy and you're not disabled, and that you're actually insulting the disabled by playing the disability card. I'm like,
Well, just to give
are you
people,
that ignorant? Like,
Just-
Thanks on that, Alan. Over to
just
you,
to,
Neil.
just to give people like the Cole's Notes version of you know, my whole thing of what a pink unicorn is. It's when you take, I mean, a little bit earlier, MG was talking about the reality of something, right? And
Mhm.
I'm all about truth and reality, right? And
Mhm.
so we talk about disability policy all the time. It's when you have disability policy that doesn't acknowledge the truth and reality of something. Like in my case with the clawback,
Mhm.
we all know every dictionary on the face of the planet defines a pension as a protected income, right? So everybody knows that a pension is a protected income, and
Mhm.
yet what does the government do? They pink unicorn it so that it's no longer protected, and then they can say, "Well, sorry, we pink unicorned it now. We don't have to look at the truth and reality of the pension being protected anymore." And that's my biggest problem with it. Like, you know, we've come to the point where all of our MLAs that are going into the legislature, you know, they have to start waving at the unicorns. Like there's unicorns that are out on the lawn, and there's unicorns that are walking the halls. They're walking the halls of the legislatures here in BC or here in Ontario, you know, and the MLAs have to start doing this. Hi unicorn, hi unicorn, hi unicorn, because I mean, you know, they are real, even though they shouldn't be, right? When you pervert something for the express purpose of committing a discrimination, or you know,
a narrative.
you're deliberately discriminating against something or someone. You know, you're perverting something. You're perverting a pension for the express purpose of being discriminatory against a particular segment, whether it's me as a disabled person or you know, an elderly person. And like MJ said, you know, well, as long as you discriminate equally, you know,
Mhm.
as long as you're discriminating against me, the disabled person, or somebody else who's elderly, as long as it's equal discrimination, it's not discrimination anymore. That's the rationale, right? And
Right.
to me, that's bullshit. That's, you
I
know,
agree.
that's why pink unicorns have to die, because you're for human rights tribunals and for governments to rationalize pink unicorns as oh, it's okay, you know, because that's basically the response I got from the Human Rights Tribunal too, that pink unicorns are fine. There's no problem with a pink unicorn.
Yeah,
But
Neil, like maybe you can
I-
mention about the you know, how the you know, the bus pass, just for instance, how pink unicorns interfered with that.
well, again, it was Michelle Stillwell, and apparently, it was 100% her call. You know, and again, she's a disabled athlete. She was a Paralympian. So when she first came into, you know, when she first became an MLA, everybody I didn't really know much about her. I thought, hey, this is going to be good. This is somebody that's going to speak up for other people with disabilities in the province. This will be great. And unfortunately, like we've said before on the podcast a number of times, is unfortunately there's people with disabilities that have power that don't use their power and influence for good. That they're using their power and influence to screw people over with disabilities, and this is the case with Michelle Stillwell. She basically listened to 5 or 6 people. It was literally, I mean, we're not even exaggerating. It was literally 5 or 6 people, right? I mean, she's been on record saying it was 5 or 6 people. It was her that said it, not me, not you,
Yep.
Brent.
Yep.
She said there was 5 or 6 people that came to me and said this whole thing is unfair. So she changed the whole freaking system and canceled the entire $45 a year bus pass for 5 or 6 people's opinions.
Yeah, but not seniors though. They left
And
seniors.
not seniors. Seniors still get it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but disabled people have an option to opt in to get that bus pass or take the cash. Now with cost of living going higher, they played the shell game. One year it was a shell game playing disabled against disabled. Oh, you can have a bus pass. You don't want to have a bus pass, or you need the cash. Well, it's either take one or the other. And then it backfired on them. It backfired on them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that all went. But it was all about pink unicorns. They were just running amok. And you know, and then there was a deal. There was a nail breaker saying you either go with the program or we're going to dismantle the whole thing altogether. Now that's another part we'll dive into another day.
And the reason why I know that is because I was in close communication with Sam Solomon at the time, who was an MLA at the time, and he was giving me insider information because he was actually helping me with the clawback, trying to help me behind the scenes with the clawback at the time. And that was when part of the clawback got reinstated. That my son's portion is respected, but my portion is not respected. You know.
Yeah, and I remember when that whole ordeal started, because we sat in the premier at the time that was in opposition and then became premier. We broke the breaking news saying, you know, the government has now taken away the bus pass. What? Yeah, and you know, so the news came down, and so we just kept advocating for it. And then, of course, it was promised that it was going to get reinstated, and it never has. And that was back in 2017 when it was going to get reinstated, and it never has. Now we're in 2024, so you see where that's going.
You see, here's the solution right here: UBI, UABI.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is where this whole pink unicorn, of them playing these games of, well, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. It's like, okay, all you're doing is justifying your job. That's all you're doing. Let's be honest. They're just justifying their job or the union job if they work within the ministry. You know, they're not here to actually solve problems. And my opinion is that the only way to stop this nonsense is a new program that's federally managed and just says, here's the money, take the money, have a nice day, spend it how you want. And here's the choice, but here's the catch. Is you can't be on both programs, you can only be on one or the other. Right? So you're going to have to make a decision. So you go with UABI or you go and stay with the provincial program. Your choice. Right? And I think that, in my opinion, giving people the options and choices to go and make decisions that's best for their lives would allow them to say, okay, I'm getting, say, $4,000 a month. I can afford this bus pass, or I can afford to go and take a taxi, or now I can afford to go and buy a car because I still maintain my license. Even though I can't afford a car, I could go and buy a car or be part of a car sharing program or whatever. Right. The problem is at every turn, they go and sit here and make decisions that impact all of us, that go and take away our freedom of mobility, our freedom of choice, our freedom of association, our freedom of whatever. But they say, oh, well, because we're doing it to all of you equally, it's not discrimination and it's not against the Constitution or the Charter.
Policy.
It's policy.
It's policy.
Right?
It's just policy.
And to
it
me,
is just policy.
See, and I'm here going, I say, well, no, the problem is what you're doing is actually you're torturing and abusing people. That's what you're doing. That's the other part of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, number 12, that they seem to not to give a care about, is their abuse and torture of people that are disabled and elderly by going and creating these programs that pick and choose what each and every one of us can go and receive.
Yeah,
like, for example, like Neil gets half a wheelchair, what somebody else gets a full wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the nonsense, the games that have to come to a stop.
Yeah.
It's cherry picking. And if you look up the word cherry picking in a dictionary or a thesaurus, it says discriminatory, right? Or it says to be discriminate. To be discriminate is cherry picking.
Yes.
And so for them to say, well, it's not discrimination, it's just unfair. Again, I say bullshit, right? So I mean, I've had the Human Rights Tribunal say, it's just unfair, Neil. It's not discrimination. And like, that's, I mean, they can say what they want, but I mean, they're acknowledging, they're believing a pink unicorn when they say that.
I had a
It's
worker
disgusting.
who, I had a worker
Dan
who
here does
was,
have his hand up, by the way.
Yeah, Dan's got his hand up, but maybe
Yeah.
we'll give Dan a shot to finish off
Yeah,
the
go
show.
for it. Yeah, we're
Yeah, I
down.
appreciate that. And I got a
Maybe.
hard go because I got to get the fuck lost for another show. But pink unicorns aren't real, blah, blah. You know, I want to show why pods like this are so important. Neil mentioned earlier how like people don't use their power for good or what have you. With regards to Minnie there, Minnie, I don't know if you know or you're familiar with, but the Inner City Family Health Team there in Toronto. They have actually a clinic right across the street from St. Michael's Emergency Room there. I sit on the board of directors there. I got to get going now, but anything you need, get a hold of me and we'll see what we can do to help you out with regards to any issues you might have. I really do got to get going, but I needed to get that point across.
We got a punch out too, actually.
Yeah, I needed to get that across before we got going. But yeah, Minnie, reach out, or I'll reach out to you, either or. And any issues you have like that with regards, because I'm right in your area, get a hold of me. And guys, thank you for doing this. And guys and gals on here, man, thank you. Have a good week, man.
Yeah, thanks, Dan, and we'll catch you on the rebound.
Yeah. And I know you wanted to punch out right now anyway, Brent, because it's right at 3 o'clock. So
yeah. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Minnie, did you want to have a last comment before we end the show?
It just what Dan said,
unicorn?
like so the pink unicorn thing, it's in the policy. The policy, not like we know there's a class system in disability that like because I used to have a 6-figure income and then I got disabled. Like if I was still able to maintain my income, I would be paying for everything out of my own. The only thing I'd be getting is disability tax credit. But because my income dropped, my mental capacity dropped so bad that I'm on ODSP, I'm in their pay direct. I'm chasing my caseworker to make sure he paid my rent correctly. It goes up every year. I'm in market rent. They know it goes up every year, but for some reason their little computer screws it up. So now
tell me about it.
My landlord is like that I have a balance on my rent. It looks like I didn't pay my rent. But when I look at the ODSP back office, it says that the rent was paid in the old amount from last month, not the new amount for this month. Now I'm calling the caseworker. You call the office, they're like, oh, you still have a caseworker, so contact the caseworker. I'm like, yeah, I left the message. I did all the things, but they legally cannot respond back to me within 15 days. So 2 weeks, I'm waiting to see if they actually did their job properly. That is so annoying. And then with the amount of money I get from ODSP, it's not a typical amount. I'm not getting the base $1,308. I'm getting more than that because my doctor fills out all the forms. But some other person who doesn't have a doctor who fills out the forms, or doesn't have a caseworker that actually gives them access to the things that they're entitled to in the policy of ODSP, blocks everything.
Oh gosh.
We're dealing with gatekeeping. We're dealing with policies. We're dealing with government. We're dealing with Ford, who thinks all disabled people just go up and get a job. No,
I know.
I like, what job am I going to have? Like the business I have online, job already fired me because a coworker went to my porn website and got me fired. There's no employment law that's going to defend it because I wasn't an employee.
Right.
There's so many other systems that are affected. So like, great, we have the disability system. And if you go in employment systems and you go employment law, like it's a system on top of system that's putting people back. And then Dan mentioned I go to this clinic. I'm not going to go to a new clinic. What for? Why would I start fresh at a new clinic when I've been with my doctor for 20 years? 20 years I've been with my doctor, and then a decade I've been with the neurologist. For me to start over fresh, that means I have to literally grill them to make sure that they're going to listen to me. They're not going to gaslight me. They're not going to treat me like, oh, because I'm Black, I don't sense pain and sensation the same way as another person. There's so many other things that starting with a new doctor that sets me up to have more stress that I do not need.
They've actually told you that?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Anytime I get a referral, if I get a referral, I go to a white doctor, they do not listen to me.
Oh, geez.
They literally do not listen to me. I have a mole on my back that I want gone. And because it's not cancerous, the doctor's not going to remove it, which means I have to go to the plastic surgeon who will remove it if I pay for it after getting all the money to pay for it. And then me saving for surgeries that are cosmetic, ODSP is going to have a little opinion about it because they wonder how you're able to save money for things that are just frivolous and cosmetic according to their definition. Not something that makes my quality of life better. There's also the basic needs that make your quality of life better, but there's also luxuries that make your life better. I don't need another person telling me I can't spend a luxury. If I want to buy certain steaks or certain foods or certain whatever, I don't need another person. You don't live here.
Yeah.
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 But I
That's
have to
exactly
check in
it.
with you of how am I spending my money if I want to go to travel. Like the absent of Ontario thing in the policy that says if you're leaving for less than 30 days, you don't have the caseworker. But if there's a problem when I travel that I'm stuck in another country logged in 30 days, I'm gonna tell ODSP. I gotta call them, collect to tell them, hey, I'm stuck in another country. If there's another pandemic that happens and people can't travel home when they need to, or
Yeah.
there's a flight delay. If I have a flight delay the day when I think I'm coming back and it extends over to 30 days, 31 days, ODSP is going to have a field day wonder, how come you're gone for so long? What were you gone?
Oh
Like,
gosh.
I don't
I had
need
a-
that.
A day pass.
Yeah,
I had a
it's like you're
huge,
a bloody prisoner
Hang on, Dylan.
in your own country.
No,
I had
province,
a
not even
huge
country. It's the
disaster.
province. It's not even like I
Yeah.
can travel out of the province.
Yeah.
It's out of the province for more than 30 days. And if it's less than 30 days, I don't need to tell them, thank you for giving me 2-week vacations. So yeah, I plan on taking my 2-week vacations, which will be a luxury according to them. If I want to do a 10-day cruise, I'm going to do a 10-day cruise. But I literally
had a
have to
huge-
worry if it's 30 days or 31 days. If my family wants to send me to Jamaica for 6 months, that's gone.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
all these things are on top of system off a system that if I was
Cumulative.
making my 6-figure income, I wouldn't be in
Gatekeeping.
this conversation.
Yeah, totally.
And my
had a
wheelchair is a luxury.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah, but
they
you only get
pay
half
for
of it, Neil.
You only pay for
get
half because
of
it's a
the
luxury.
They're even trying to decide if the battery should be on public transit because they set on fire.
Oh,
But some
gosh.
people, the battery operated remote control wheelchairs what they need because they're able to use it in different ways to control it.
No,
But
we're
if it
gonna
has
put
a
a reason
battery
strap.
on it and it may or may not start a fire on public
Oh.
transit, like the
Oh.
e-bike set a fire
Yeah.
on TTC.
I heard about that.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's
yep.
because- See, for most scooters, I think they're still using lead acid batteries. I'm not certain, unless they've all moved to
they're-
lithium ion.
What-
Whatever
They're
the battery is
gel.
using,
They're
if they're not
lithium
correctly, if they're not correctly replacing the battery. So like if you got the bike or device and it had a battery in it, and then you replaced the battery and you decide to go with a third-party battery or a discount battery that's not the manufacturer battery that costs more money when you buy from the manufacturer, you're literally risking that device to explode around other people. Because
Yeah.
I've noticed this. People in their scooters, their chairs, they really act like they're the only ones on the sidewalk. You know how many times I get run over by my foot because somebody's not paying attention and I'm standing there?
Oh,
As if
geez.
I'm the problem when I have a disability just like them. The amount of times that I get my foot run over because they're like, "Oh, I'm a disabled here." Like, no, you have to share. Like, they need
to
a separate
share.
sidewalk for wheelchairs. They need a separate sidewalk for scooters because the people that are able-bodied, you run over a foot. Then what? Then I become disabled with a boot on my foot. The amount of people I saw with a boot on their foot, just walking to the grocery store, was 5 people. 5 people that have some type of foot surgery that they're in a boot. Because something happened to them that they're in a boot. And I'm pretty certain somebody ran over their foot. Because the level I'm trying not to get my foot run over from a wheelchair is all the time when I go outside.
Wow.
I was downtown Toronto. I had 2 scooters behind
You shouldn't have to
me,
go and buy
side by
steel-toe
side,
boots.
going meet
Yeah.
with the horns. I'm like, what is this? The expressway?
Yeah.
I'm walking as fast as I can down Yonge Street. It's already packed. I'm heading for the Eaton Center to go meet my boss because I was working for a moving company, and he'd just tell me the location of where they were at, and I would meet them there. Right? He'd be like, "Hey, Alan, we're gonna be at 75 Yonge Street or whatever it is. Be there for 9:30, or we're gonna be at the corner of University and Bay.
And
Be there at 10."
the other thing of people really think the government is providing us everything. When I listed everything they're not covering, everything they want to cut,
That
everything
was
I'm maxing out my credit card for,
that
the
was
amount of debt I'm going into because somebody really believes the government should cover that. Like my reduction surgery for my breast, my doctor really thinks the government should cover it. My mom really thinks the government should cover it. So when I showed them the quote from the surgeon of $15,000 plus my approval letter from OHIP, and it's only good for 1 year, then I got to get another doctor to send in the request. Then I need to find a surgeon who's going to work do the operation on me, who's comfortable with my medical history, just so that I can actually not have my whole left side of my body in constant pain.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was statement number one. Remember that the any claim that the vulnerable and disabled are well taken care of is false. That was
But it goes
our
in the pink
I missed that
unicorn. The
one.
way that like
pink unicorn as well. Yeah.
my family thinks I should be in
Kind of a
housing.
combined-
Housing is a 20-year waiting list. I've been in
Oh,
market rent
yeah.
for 16 years. The day I moved into this apartment, housing said you can look at 2 units. I had keys to this apartment. Why am
Mhm.
I going to look for another apartment and pack up again and move to another location and then maybe have a horrible landlord in that location when this place is fine? Anything I need to get done, changing light bulbs, changing cockroaches, whatever it is, the building does it. I don't have to worry about here in the building. All I have to worry about is rent increase. How much are they going to increase the rent? And are they going to offer me
Mhm.
a bonus to move out to another unit so they can
Mhm.
renovate this unit and sell it off again?
And jack up the
And
rent,
then
yeah.
the disability with the pay direct, I literally have to worry if they did the pay direct correctly. And if they didn't, I probably have to tap into my savings to make sure I pay my rent on time.
Yeah, that's the other worry. I want to thank everyone today for tuning in and being part of the great panel. And I look forward to our next
It's
segment.
I'm gonna
yeah.
see. I'm gonna see if the outro plays. I couldn't get the intro playing for some reason, so
Yeah,
it's just
and-
like there was
and
no
then
intro
you-
today.
And you're probably all wondering, well, what happened? It was echoing earlier. I had
Yeah.
my other device going for the show, and then all of a sudden I had a comment come there. It said low battery. I'm thinking, what? It was fully charged, and I was like, oh no!
Oh,
So I got to
wow.
get my phone out here, and all of a sudden it started echoing. So yeah, that's what happened there.
So everybody, cross your fingers and toes, and hopefully we'll have a proper outro. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thanks everyone for
thanks for
tuning in. Until our next show.
yeah.
Otherwise, somebody will sing you out.
Yeah. Pink unicorns, pink unicorns.